Knowledge for Men, Episode 11. Welcome to KnowledgeForMen.com, where boys turn into men, where men turn into leaders, into lions, the ferocious few who stand strong, a place where you grow to become the man you were born to be. It's time to take massive action towards the life you want. Get the health, get the relationships, business, and career you've always dreamed of. Achieve a level of success and happiness that you've been searching for so many years. There's a reason why you're listening to this. It's fate. This is your time. You live only once. Recognize this. Accept this. Life has given you enough, and it's time to take a stand and take full control of your life. Stand with us as we interview the most inspiring and successful leaders to give you real-world advice to crush life and awaken the sleeping giant inside of you. Let's make our dreams come true. All right, guys, I'm here with Carlos Xuma. He is a dating and attraction advisor, a black belt martial arts instructor, and motivational life counselor. He is the author of Girlfriend Training Program, Secrets of the Alpha Male, and the Bad Boy Formula. He helps guys live the alpha lifestyle, unleash the masculine confidence to meet any woman, create lasting attraction, and get everything you deserve as a man. Carlos has appeared in Playboy Magazine, CBS, ABC Television, FHM, and Maxim Magazine. Carlos, I'm really happy to have you on the show.
It's good to be here too, man. I was going to say, the way you made it sound there, I actually haven't appeared in Playboy. Like, I wasn't the centerfold. For some reason, my boobs weren't big enough, but yeah.
Yeah. One day. Don't give up.
I know.
Don't give up on your dreams.
They got to airbrush a lot off of me, though.
Well, Carlos, I'm really happy to have you on the show. You're going to provide tremendous value. And we start off the show with a favorite success quote of yours and why, something that you've lived by. Go ahead.
My favorite quote is actually on the back of one of my iPods, too. I thought it was like, I got it out of a movie. And if anybody can email me with the movie this came from, I'll send you something cool. But the quote is this: "The dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity." And that's that when I heard it, I was like, whoa, wait a minute, there's something really important there. And it's true. It's the way of kind of living your life, not in your rearview mirror, but kind of a future projected rearview mirror where you could look back and go, that's the life I wanted to lead, as opposed to getting there and being like, man, I'm the guy in the old folks' home that's regretting everything he didn't do, which is a horrible way to end up at the end of the road.
The dreams of youth are the regrets of maturity. I like that. And that's actually from the movie Legend. It's like an older 80s fantasy movie. And it's about living your life with no regrets. And just imagine there's a film crew around you at all times and you're making your movie right now. How would that change things? You know, are you sleeping a lot, watching TV? Are you really living? Or are you just like walking around? It's such a powerful quote, Carlos.
Yeah, it's funny though. I struggle with this dilemma because I'm a big fan of quotes and aphorisms and all those things and those sayings. Some people find them kind of cliched and trite, and there is that aspect, and it's kind of like, I don't know. You can only hear certain, like, there's that quote from Braveheart too, which I really, really like, which is, every man dies, but not every man really lives.
Ooh, I love that one.
Yeah, that one's awesome. I really like that too. There's some people that kind of poo-poo those. It's because I think in a way that they come across as kind of oversimplistic. And I think it's up to us as men especially to really listen and hear those words, but to expand them, to make them actually kind of fill up and become their true size in terms of what they really mean to you, right? It's a laziness just to fall back on those 10 or 12 words or whatever it is, but it's up to you to actually make that happen in your life, which is a lot different to a lot of people. I think that's what's important, is that we, as men, putting in that kind of energy to make those things happen in our lives.
It's really up to you to make what you want out of your life. You can't read and save all these quotes and never actually do anything about it. It's like on Facebook or Instagram, people save these pictures of the quotes and they have so many and they're really popular, but actually living them is so much harder. And that's where the real work comes in. And moving forward, Carlos, go ahead and share with the audience how you got started with what you do.
Well, I got into the dating advice for guys realm way back when actually I started before there was even really an internet for this sort of thing, actually back in the 90s. If anybody here is listening that's can relate to those days, but there was really nothing you could get online or otherwise, even when the internet did start having stuff. I had a couple of books that I bought from a bookstore. They're called, and I don't think they're in print anymore, they're called Love Tactics. And there was a sequel to it called Love Tactics 2 or something like that. And you know what? It was interesting because these two books clicked with me on a level that nothing else had. I'd read a ton of the relationship books, the Barbara DeAngelo stuff, and all of it basically teaches you to be pretty much a watered down wuss. None of that stuff is applicable to a man who needs to create instant attraction with a woman. None of that stuff is going to help you either. It just messes with your head. Trust me, it did with mine. But these two books were really interesting because what they did was they actually started explaining that there is a rationale, a logic for how we become attracted to another person, that there is a way of influencing that. It's not luck, it's not chance, it's not fate, it's not your looks. It has nothing to do with that. In fact, it's all about, and this is the best part for guys, I think, that it really doesn't have anything to do with looks. It has everything to do with just how you carry yourself, the way you approach and carry yourself with a woman. I'm trying to avoid using that confidence term because that's pretty nebulous and it's also kind of inaccurate in a lot of ways. But it comes down to that attitude, that bad boy attitude that you bring into an interaction with a woman. And when I discovered that through these books, it was kind of like, whoa, because the books were kind of like, they were okay. They gave me a starting off point. They didn't give me a real concrete foundation. So I took the stuff in the field and I used it when I went out and met women and when I got into relationships because I was never really I didn't really like the whole pickup artist kind of lifestyle. I mean, I've been with a lot of chicks, but I prefer having a girlfriend. And I think most guys do too. But you want to have that power to attract many women. And that was something I wanted and it's something I had to learn and figure out. And that's what got me started in all of it. Today, still doing it.
All right, so attraction with a woman is not about looks at all. It's about the way you approach and carry yourself. It's that bad boy attitude that women respond to. And let's jump back just a little bit. Why did you get started with what you do? Like, what happened in your life that made you really want to dig deeper into this arena?
Oh yeah, that's a whole thing unto itself. I've had so many different incidents, I guess you'd call them, in my past where I was basically put face to face with my own inadequacies in terms of my ability to attract women and just basically screwing it up every which way you can possibly imagine with a woman. The one that comes to mind, the one I've talked about the most, it's just pretty tragic and painful, but what the hell, I'm over it now. Was this situation where I went out on a double date with a good friend of mine, Mike. He and his girlfriend were bringing along this other gal for me to meet. So we go out on the date, and the other gal she's kind of standoffish. She's acting kind of weird. At the end of the date, all I said was, you know what? Let's just end it with a hug. And I go in for the hug, and she like recoils. She pulls away from me, and I'm thinking to myself, what? I mean, it was literally a WTF moment, unlike any else. That was what was screaming in my head, even though I wasn't thinking at the time. And then I find out later on. This is the kicker. This is the best part. Hang on, wait for it. I found out later that the night before I went out on that double date, Mike had a threesome with both of those girls. And it was like the ultimate slap in the face. Like, what? I couldn't even get a hug, and my buddy gets. I was just totally pain. I literally went out on my balcony and just like screamed at the top of my lungs. I forgot what I screamed, but it was total frustration. That was the moment I just decided, never again. That is not going to happen anymore. I'm going to figure this thing out.
So that was the tipping point where you said, never again would you allow this to happen.
That was brutal, dude.
And what I like is that you actually went out and did something about it. I mean, it's a big step to acknowledge your opportunities in life, but a completely different thing to do something about it, to take action and actually go out, learn, grow, and become the person you want to become. And you went on to create your signature alpha male lifestyle products. Can you go ahead and share with the audience what the alpha lifestyle is, the benefits, and how men can cultivate that alpha lifestyle?
Yeah, good question. The archetype that I talk about is actually the alpha man. The alpha male, as I think most guys are somewhat familiar with, is a scientific term for the dominant male in a pack. If we're talking about animals, it's the male that basically gets all the mating, and any other males in that tribe or that group get his leftovers, because he's the dominant male. And it's just a scientific thing. That's the way they behave, and most species behave like that in a lot of ways. That there's typically one or maybe just a couple of the guys that get all the mating because they're the dominant ones. They get their genes reproduced, they make it into the next generation. Well, that concept kind of sparked with me because I'm thinking to myself, you know what? In a lot of ways, because people are basically evolved from other animals, we carry a lot of the same characteristics. That we have those alpha men who get it. And it's not that these guys are the ones that the aggro jerks in the bar that are basically beating up all the other guys and dragging the women off by their hair. Any of that. It's not that at all. And that's why I changed it to the alpha man. This guy is like the next evolution of the guys that you remember from the classic movies like James Dean and Humphrey Bogart and Cary Grant and all those guys those guys were the shizzle, man. They had it down. You could just tell watching them, even in black and white, they had the attitude. And it wasn't just the acting. These guys they were like this all the time. They were cool. Always had that cigarette dangling carelessly off of one finger as they were being cool. It's just that coolness aspect that we don't see in a lot of guys today. We get a lot of the watered down wussy guys in the romantic comedies. So that's the guy that I talk about is the alpha man. He's not like any one particular man. He's the best parts of all the guys that do get women, that do get the success in life, not just with women, but again, their financial life, their social life, every part of their life that they want. And it all comes from that drive to be this dominant alpha man.
So the alpha man is the best part of all guys who are successful in life. It's not just with the women, but in all aspects of life, which therefore would attract more women to you. So how can guys cultivate the alpha lifestyle?
One of the things I did, this is just kind of a silly, simple thing, but it works like crazy, is just identify all the guys, movie stars, or even just movie roles, because there's a lot of movie stars that played a few roles that were actually the kind of guy that we want to be. I mean, you think about the old Harrison Ford. I mean, most of the stuff he's done has actually fallen into this mold, but especially the older stuff. He was an alpha man. He was the guy the chicks dug. The classic example, and it's the one that my girlfriend and I, actually my fiance and I joke about a lot, is that scene in Empire Strikes Back. He's basically encased in carbonite. Everybody remembers that scene. And Leah looks down at him and says, "I love you." And he looks up and says, "I know." I mean, that's just like the prodigal thing that an alpha man would do. He's just got that attitude of, yeah, I know. And the thing that guys can do is find these guys in your life, whether they're real, whether they're heroes out of books or out of movies or whatever they are, but find the men that personify that to you. They can also be people from history. Like I really respected Abe Lincoln, who's, he was an alpha in his own way. Even Albert Einstein was kind of an alpha. He's just a brilliant man in more than just a scientific way. These guys that epitomize that you can use as examples to hold yourself up to, because that's what we need is, as men, we don't have anybody really holding us to really high expectations anymore, or at least expectations of the kind of guy we should be to get women or to get the things we really want. So it's up to us to create that. And the way you do that is identify the people that personify the things that you want to be. So find those guys in your life that exemplify the alpha man.
Okay, so identify the men and leaders you look up to in life and emulate their strong qualities. Carlos, is this a fake it till you make it strategy, or how would you explain that?
Yeah, and it's identifying the qualities about to make that person either an idol or a representative of that for you. It's a tricky line to say fake it till you make it, because there is that element of if you just do it, what's faking it? Is it really faking it? Aren't you doing it? Whatever that thing is, right? I mean, if I'm just picking up a guitar for the first time and I learn how to play a few notes, am I faking it? Well, maybe I think I'm faking it because I don't have the confidence behind my playing yet, but I'm really doing it, so I'm not really faking it. So if you're actually doing it, you're not faking it. You're just getting accustomed to an identity that you don't normally use.
I like that. If you're doing it, then you're not faking it. You're doing it. Well, that sounds a little easy. It seems like a lot of guys could do that and just become the alpha male. What's really holding guys back from becoming the alpha male?
Well, it's mostly, and this just kind of boils down to psychology, it's our inner dialogue. We get caught up in thinking a certain dialogue. Like there's this imaginary voice in our heads, and I call them, well, at least from the place I came from, I called him the loser boy. He's that voice in your head that's always trying to talk you out of stuff that you want to do, right? You always want to do this or that, and you got that voice saying, "Nah, you probably couldn't do that," or "Nah, that'd be too much work," or "Nah, you're more comfortable where you're at. You should just do what you're doing." It's basically the voice that's stopping us from doing everything in life that we really want to do. And you got to be able to know how to manage that voice. First of all, identify it when it happens. And because the voice doesn't always actually speak, sometimes it's just a weird flinge of emotion that goes through your body. And you got to identify that when it happens, because that's how you get ingrained in habits that you don't want. You stop actually even thinking the words that go along with it, right? It's like when you see a woman that's attractive, you want to go over and talk to her, but you feel a little twinge of fear of rejection. Now, do you actually say in your head, wow, I'm kind of afraid that that woman might reject me? No, you don't. You just feel the emotion and immediately you recoil from the situation. And then, boom, you slip into make excuse zone where it's like, yeah, she's probably not my type anyways. She's got that hammer toe look about her. I wouldn't want a chick like that. You come up with ridiculous excuses for why you can't do it. So that dialogue right there is the one thing that is stopping most guys from basically realizing everything in life that they want. It's all down to that inner dialogue.
Yeah, it's not about the external. It's completely about the internal. So mastering yourself inside is the key to breaking through and getting the life you want.
It's a lot of that. But another thing that I discovered along the way, and this is really important, it's one of the things I think that I've been uniquely able to identify, is that you can read a book, you can read books all day long, all week long, your entire life on being confident, and you'll still never be really confident. You could wind up being just as nervous and scared and not accomplishing anything as you did before you read the books. The difference always comes from internalizing what you learn, but then practicing it in the real world. And it becomes a feedback loop. You practice being confident by doing something that you normally wouldn't do. You get a little jolt of, hey, I did that. It's like a little positive emotional spike in your vein. And that feeds back into your internal system because it's a feedback loop, right? You see the evidence of it. Now you can feel a little bit more confident trying again and doing it again and trying other things. And it becomes an upward spiral. Instead, we don't take action and then we justify it and it becomes a downward spiral.
Yeah, knowledge is not power. Unlike what so many people would say, it's applied knowledge is where true power is found. Yes, you have to learn. I'm not saying learning is bad and you just have to take a lot of action all the time, but the results will only come when you learn and then take massive action on what you just learned. Otherwise, you're just reading for entertainment.
Yeah. So that's the important part of the process I think a lot of guys leave out, and especially a lot of the self-help gurus out there leave out, is that all processes to do something you want to do, to whether it's changing a little bit or adding a new skill or whatever it is, it relies on both the inner game and the outer game. You can't separate the two. They're actually the same thing. But we get tempted to like say, I'm just going to work on my confidence. You can't. You can't be confident without actually doing something that gives you evidence to prove that you're actually confident. So you have to do something.
Right. You have to take action in order to get results so that you can learn and grow.
Yeah. And it's not nearly as scary as a lot of guys think too. And that's the other part, is overcoming that fear factor, the knee jerk. Oh my God, I feel afraid. I'm not going to do that, and being able to control it.
Yes, the fear factor. This is what kills so many guys, and specifically in the area of approaching women. A lot of guys can be very successful in business or even very fit and good looking, but still unable to talk to girls they're attracted to. So what is the best way to approach women, Carlos?
That one comes back around to their pre-work. What are they doing? See, most guys create what I call a split personality when it comes to their approach game. In other words, we as guys know that it's up to us to walk up and talk to that hot chick. But we're afraid to do it because it suddenly means something now. The more attracted a guy is to a woman, the harder it is for him to approach her. And this is just a fact, a psychological fact, that we start to add more and more emotions. We compound it in our head. We start giving it things meaning that haven't occurred yet. And it becomes very painful, because for an attractive woman to reject us is much more painful than a woman that is not as attractive. Might be cute, but she doesn't have nearly as much rejection veto power, I guess you call it. So what we do as guys is we can talk to anybody naturally, but when it comes to that one chick we really want to talk to, it becomes a whole other thing. But most guys run around their entire life never really just talking to women in general. They don't just walk up and talk to anybody. We become very focused on our own thoughts. We're kind of solo artists, if you will. As guys, we're just a lot more independent. We're not as collaborative and cooperative and communicative as women are. So when a guy goes out, just kind of make this short, he goes out, he doesn't just think about talking to everybody. He waits until he encounters this woman that he wants to talk to. And now that he hasn't talked to anybody, it becomes really weird. His system starts sending him all sorts of weird messages because he's not in the habit of just talking to anybody and everybody. So that's the key factor right there. When you get to understand this, it's going to be totally change your game. You should be really approaching, my joking phrase is, you need to approach every man, woman, child, and small furry mammal. You got to talk to everybody. literally. I mean, not like every single person that crosses your path. That would be tremendously draining, especially if you're an introvert like me. But you need to set it up so that you're setting yourself up for success. Basically, when you go to the dry cleaner, just chat up the gal to take your information. Just something stupid like, "Oh my God, it's hot in here. How do you guys stand it?" Just little things like that. You get used to doing that with everybody. And then when that chick that you really do want to talk to comes along, it's not a weird jumping into a cold pool sensation. It's totally natural then. That right there is a key differentiator. Most guys, again, split women up into two categories: the ones they would date and the ones they wouldn't date. The ones they would date, when it comes time to talk to them, they're too nervous to talk to. The ones they wouldn't date, they don't talk to at all, so they have no practice talking to women, period. So there you go. In a nutshell, it's the most important part of the process.
Just be social with everyone is what I'm getting from you, Carlos. And when that hot girl comes, you're just being a social guy. You're not super excited. You're not putting her on a pedestal. You're not in your head. You're just doing it, and it's flowing out naturally. And it's what's going to separate you from the other guys, because they are, of course, going to be putting her on that pedestal.
Yep, that's exactly it. It takes all that, "Oh my God, she's so special. I can't break this fragile vase of a woman, because if I do and I get rejected by her, it will mean the end of the world." And I'm saying that over dramatically, but you know what? That's nowhere near as big as we build it up to in our heads. So that's exactly it. You got to knock her off the pedestal, because she doesn't even want to be there.
Yeah, isn't that ironic how no one wants to be put on a pedestal, both guys and girls, yet it still happens. And it's probably the fastest way to get the other person to turn around and run. And here's a scenario, Carlos. Let's say a guy approaches girl. He's having great conversation. And now what can he do to really escalate that conversation further so there's some tension and attraction being built?
Well, that's an excellent point right there. Another place we kind of create that split personality is within the conversation that we're trying to, like you said, get this woman interested in us. You can't go into a conversation with any woman with the intention of making her your nice, comfortable friend. If you do that, you're doomed, because you're starting off with an energy that you will immediately classify as, "Oh, he's just a friend," and that's where you're going to stay. You have to be edgy. You've got to take on a certain edge in the conversation that is that creates sexual tension. Basically, there has to be sexual tension within the conversation you have with women. And by sexual tension, I think there's a negative connotation to this. So I got to explain. It's not tension like, "Ooh, this is weird," or "Ooh, that's creepy." I'm talking about, "Oh, I'm a boy, you're a girl, and this is like we're on the playground teasing each other." That's the kind of sexual tension every conversation has to have with women right off the bat. Because if it doesn't have that, you're just going to get put immediately into the friends bucket, and you're never going to get out of there. And this is really important, because this is why guys wonder why they're not able to get phone numbers, or why when they finally do get phone numbers, she's just not interested and it fizzles out. It's because they never really got her energized and excited to talk to him. And a lot of guys are doing this because they also hear that mixed message from women that says, "Yeah, but I need to know you can be my friend first." That's baloney. That's crap. That's a test. And that's totally meaningless. What she's saying is she's got to know that you're not just going to be a jerk that's going to try and sleep with her and leave the next morning. That's what she needs to know. But you have to absolutely positively make the conversation have some sexual tension in it, so she feels that. That's what creates that attraction. It's a risk. It feels like a risk anyways, but even though it's really not once you know how to do it correctly. But that's the only way it can go. By going the other route, you absolutely condemn yourself to the friend zone.
AKA the no man zone.
Yeah, exactly. It's especially with a woman you want.
Yeah. And Carlos, can you give us some examples of how to create that sexual tension with women?
I mean, ideally, it comes right off the bat when you start talking to her, because it should be as playful, fun, and teasing as you possibly can. If it comes across with the right humor and the right energy, like a friend of mine gave me a great way to open a conversation that kind of does this right off the bat. It's what we call a direct opener, because it kind of lets her know that you've got a little bit of interest in her, but that's required. Okay, to hide that is actually another one of those huge mistakes that guys make, is they try and hide their sexual intention from women, thinking in this age of equality and liberation and all that we need to be treating women with kid gloves, and that's exactly not what she wants. Don't ever go into conversation feeling as though you need to hide your sexual intent, because she already knows it, and the more you try and hide it, the more pathetic you become in her eyes, because that's the way this whole male-female thing works. Is guys are trying to get sex from women, and women are going, hang on, hang on, hang on, and eventually they'll let you have it. That's the game between men and women, and that's the way it's supposed to be. That's what creates natural sexual tension. But too many guys are out there going, oh, no, 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 I'm not one of those dogs, one of those guys. No, no, no. And that's where she's going to go, oh, really? And, you kind of become double pathetic in a way, because you're not creating sexual tension, and you are also hiding natural male masculinity, which is also really weird to a woman. But anyway, back to your question of how do you do that right in the start of a conversation? God, I got on these tangents. So much to say, so little time.
Yeah, keep going. I love it.
Yeah. So little to say, so little time. Yeah, I mean, initially, I was going to give you that opener. The one that he gave me that is really great is you walk up to him and say, hey, what time is it? And as she starts to look at her watch or maybe check it on her cell phone, you go, okay, I was kind of fibbing there. I really was just looking for an excuse to flirt with you. My name is Carlos, or whatever your name is. It's a great way to open a conversation because, number one, it's telling the truth. Number two, it's kind of funny. She'll find that cute and very, very flattering. And again, it's playful. It's a nice way to open the conversation that doesn't say, I'm going to try and sneak in the back door of friendship and trick you into liking me. Because that's exactly what so many guys are doing. They're just trying to I'm going to wear some camouflage clothing and you'll think of me a friend. And then I'll spring it on you all at once, freak you out, make it really weird between us, and then make sure absolutely that I never become your boyfriend. It's kind of harsh, but that's exactly what happens.
Yes, such a sad story that, every guy's going to experience at some point in their lives, which we hope to prevent here. So don't hide your intentions. Be clear in your thoughts, words, and actions to the woman, and you're going to be much more successful, and there will be no surprises for her. Okay, so let's say you approach the girl and things are going well in the interaction. The attraction was there, and you guys had a really good time. And then it just ended. And then the conversation fizzles out and she starts to look the other way and the other things look more exciting and interesting. And then the guy just kind of walks away. What can guys do here better?
Well, that's another situation is, okay, so now I've started the conversation and maybe I did all the right things. And a lot of guys actually do that fairly well. They started off right, but it kind of fizzles out because they don't know where it's going. They don't have a plan. So you have to have what I call bookends. The bookends are the way you start a conversation and the way you finish a conversation. Because once you have those two parts down, you're going to feel really comfortable. You control the interaction. You can dictate when it starts, when it stops, and what happens at each point. Then all you have to do is you push those bookends further and further apart by putting more stuff in between, more conversation, more things you get comfortable with, and depending on the situation, how much time you have. So the bookends become incredibly helpful to know, okay, I'm going to open the conversation with, hey, what time is it? Oh, I was just kidding. I really just want an excuse to flirt with you. Okay, there's my opener. I've got that down and I know it by heart and I could say it in my sleep. Now, how are you going to get out of the conversation? How are you going to end it? Most guys don't have any clue how to really do this effectively. Are they going for a phone number? Hey, do you want to get together sometime? Weak. Hey, I'd like to take you out sometime. Again, not so good. You got to have some sort of exit strategy, or what I like to call is your escape chute. Right? You got to get out of the conversation. You might feel that it's starting to fizzle and you want to end before it actually does. So you got to have a way to leave the conversation. The best way I've done it, and this is a little freebie technique, this is awesome, it works like 100% of the time, is basically say, you know what, it's been great talking to you, I got to get going. And then you start to turn away, but then you turn back like you changed your mind and you go, hey, wait a minute, you know what? We might want to continue this conversation again sometime. Give me your email or give me your phone or give me your Facebook. We'll talk again. That's it. And again, I got that memorized and I just pull that out at the drop of a hat, ad lib it here and there, but it doesn't matter. As long as it feels natural, I mean, she's going to totally be into it. It also seems like it's kind of an afterthought, like, oh, he was about to walk away, and then it just seemed like it would be a good idea for him. It doesn't come across as needy. It's not the, oh, please, will you please, oh, please go out with me. None of that. Now I have both ends of the conversation totally controlled. I know exactly how I'm going to go in and how I'm going to leave, which, by the way, is an incredible anxiety relief to your nervous system. The reason most guys feel so anxious and so nervous going into an interaction with women is because they just don't have any control over any aspect of the conversation. Or at least we never feel like we do. We feel like it's all her choice. Well, now you've got the choice. It's back in your lap. You know how you're going to start it, how you're going to finish it, and you can do that at any point. You're safe for the whole conversation. That's the key. You got to feel safe talking to her.
Okay, let's take it one step further and say we had a great interaction, got the number,
Hmm.
and then the guy goes to text or call and then gets zero response.
Hmm.
Why is this happening and what can guys do to prevent this? I think it's a huge challenge that a lot of guys are having nowadays.
Yeah, you got to make sure that you're getting her invested in the conversation. This is another one of those huge, huge mistakes that guys make in a conversation is they either do all the talking or they keep it at such a superficial, fluffy level that she's never really given anything to the conversation, right? She was there and she was talking, but she wasn't really emotionally invested in any way. She didn't have to prove herself or didn't joke with you or get teased, or there's no interaction that made her feel like she has something to lose if she doesn't talk to you again. Really, really important, because that's what makes us keep coming back to stuff is our feeling of investment in it. Television shows, like when I first started watching Breaking Bad, I watched the first season, then I watched the second season, and I'm like, oh God, I got to keep watching this because I've watched 2 seasons and I got to know what happens. It's a great show, but I still got to keep watching. It's that, right? It's that investment we have. Think about that in terms of just, movies that get us hooked or TV shows that get us hooked.
Right.
They know how to do this principle of getting somebody invested in it so they don't want to walk away. It would feel like you literally lost something if you didn't reconnect. That's your goal for the conversation. And then, of course, there's a multitude of other errors that happen when guys text that you can easily avoid. And it's other stuff I talk about depending on how guys are texting. But it's a good strategy, yeah, after the first meetup or after the first time you meet her and you get a phone number, text her at a certain point, and then know exactly what you're going to do. Follow the blueprints to get to the point you want to get to.
Okay, so just moving along here in the interaction, let's say you get the girl's phone number and then you get the date and things are going well, everything's planned out. And so what kind of advice do you have for guys on the first dates and how can they be more effective and what are some pitfalls to avoid when they're going on these first dates?
Yeah, the first date idea is itself pretty flawed. You don't want to go on a date. You want to make it very, very loose and it has to sound fun. A date does not sound fun. It doesn't even sound fun to a guy. It's just a possibility to it's just not a very good thing because there's so much weight and so much gravity put on this one situation. So you got to make it something that she would want to go do. Like, well, I don't know, maybe just grab a drink at some place that you know is close by where she lives. Hey, you text her, hey, I'm over at O'Doul's Pub. Meet me for a drink. I'll be here in 5 minutes. I'll be here for another hour or two. Right? And great. If she doesn't, no problem because you're already there. You're already doing something, so you don't look like a loser. But don't fall into the victim of being the guy that has to create like some orchestrated romantic fantasy. That's definitely not what you want to do. The one thing again that creates that sense of investment is how much fun we have with somebody. How much lighthearted, non-obligatory fun we just have is a major factor, a major indicator to a woman as to whether or not she's going to stick around with you. If it feels like it's all really intense, heavy stuff trying to lead up to love, she's going to run away from that too. Women don't like that either. It has to be lighthearted and fun.
So the first date or interaction really just needs to be fun. Otherwise, it puts way too much pressure on both parties. Don't really set up the dinner with movie and flowers. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not good.
It's not romantic. It's just too much and too try hard. Really focus on just having a good time and keep it light. And you don't want to spend too much money on those first few dates.
Yeah, and depending on how you first met the person, if you were already in a situation of hanging out for a long time, that was your first date. That's already done and in the bag. It's again back to how are you going to make it so that she's going to always think, man, I got to hang out with him because it's always so much fun. It's so cool to be around that guy. That's the goal, again, we're thinking only in terms of our own needs, very short-sighted through our own lens. Look through her eyes. What is it she would want to go do and hang out with you? Well, it's anything where you guys have fun.
Having fun is always going to be the go-to with girls. Spark those emotions, always going to help you out. Well, I want to jump into some of the biggest lessons you've learned in your career as a dating and life coach, Carlos.
Wow. There's so many. Most of the ones I just told you are some of the big lessons, but those are tactical. If I were to shift it up to like the strategic level of the big things, I think the number one thing is mistaking events for the process. And what I mean by that is, I'll give you an example. I've been playing guitar for a long, long, long time. And a lot of people, when they hear me play, they're like, wow, man, they're like so in awe of it. And I think to myself, but wait a minute, you're just seeing this event right here of me playing this, but you didn't see the fact that I practiced for 4 hours a day for over 10 years straight easily and that's not even how long I've been playing, but that's how I started out. You didn't see all that work. And we don't see that. We don't see the concert pianist who literally spends unbelievable amounts of hours practicing like the interval between two notes. We just see the event of something that looks like, oh my God, that's so incredible. I could never do that. But they don't actually see what's going on behind it. I think it's kind of a way that we as humans kind of excuse ourselves out of work. I mean, we're all naturally lazy. It's one of our built in flaws, if you will. Every single person has a streak of laziness in them. So you got to look at something like even building up your skills with women as something that is a process. It's not an event. There is not one guy that got instantly good with women. Every single guy had an issue getting better with women, and some of them a whole lot more than you would want to think about. So your process is going to be different for whatever it may be. But the reality is you got to look at things as being processes, not events. Getting wealthy is a process. It's not an event. You don't go out and buy a lottery ticket and get rich. I know a lot of people build their hopes and dreams up that way, but that's not real life. That's playing it by chance, and there's no control there. And that's one of the things I just choose not to do. So just make that differentiation in your head, because it makes all the difference, not only in dating and learning dating skills with women and making them attracted to you, but every single thing in life you can do. But it's a process. It's never going to just fall in your lap as an event that will happen to you quite like that, where you just instantly become confident, or you instantly become Don Juan, or instantly become rich guy, or whatever it is you want to do. Really focus on that. I think that's one of the biggest lessons of all that I've picked up over the years.
Very powerful. It takes time to achieve mastery in anything. It's a journey. And with small incremental goals met over a consistent period of time, you could achieve anything. Hard work can get you there. And for the listeners, Carlos, about how long would you say it takes for the average person, give or take, to become relatively good with women and date, the women that they really like to?
It doesn't take long at all. That's a huge variable there. It's like a big unknown, because every single guy has their thing that they got to get past, right? Every single guy does. My experience has been that 90% of it for guys is not that they have a problem with women. It's that they're not they don't have the social skills they would like to have. It's an overarching social thing. It's not complete social ineptitude by any stretch, but it's just there's that one aspect that kind of eludes them a little bit. We have those stereotypes like of the guys, the tech geek guys, which I was for many, many years, where computers great, but when it comes to women, that's a big gray area, and you can't figure that out. But at least computers I can control. They're ones and zeros, and I can totally understand that thing, right? It's technical. It's that one area there, being willing to understand that there is actually a logic to women. It's an emotional logic, though, and that's what freaks guys out, because we're not trained in that. So when it comes to how long it will take, I mean, honestly, most guys can can at least double, even triple their success with women in a very short period of time, a matter of months, depending on how you get your coaching and how serious you are about actually going out and doing it. That's really the differentiator, I think, is there's so many guys that will just buy a program and they'll feel better about having bought the program from me, but they don't actually use it. And that's where the funny part is, because once you use it, you get the success you were looking for. Instead, they're just looking for a little temporary, I don't know what it is, a little make myself feel better, rather than really take care of this thing so that it never is an issue in your life again. Because it's one of the core needs of a man. A man has to feel virile and masculine and attractive to women. If we don't feel that, there is a hole inside you that can never be filled. So you have no choice, really. You have to do something about this and have to make it important to you. Because once you do take care of it, what's really amazing is how many other things open up to you that you never thought you would even want to do or want to go after. I know so many guys that suddenly start traveling and start businesses, and just, their wealth increases, their social success increases. It's just exponential across the board. So just one huge thing that can make the most impact on your life.
Yeah, I mean, it doesn't have to be that you're bad with girls. It's sometimes that you don't have the social skills to be able to talk to girls. Sometimes guys can't even talk to other guys, or they struggle having conversations with their family, and then they go and try and talk to a 9 or this really beautiful 10, and they can't have that conversation that they want, and they think it's because they're not good with girls. But really, you just need to work on your social skills and become that social person that other people want to be around. It's something that you can build. It's something that you can develop with time and practice. It's something that you can gradually develop if you go out and take more action. If you're willing to put you're vulnerable and you're willing to put your personality on the line and be authentic with others and really just express who you are without caring what other people think. And ultimately, you're going to attract the right people into your life, the people who care about you, the people who want you, the people who want to be with you, because that's what it's about, is putting yourself out there on the line, being social, having fun, and just talking to everybody. And honestly, like, the end result of that is just you're a confident, you're a fun guy, and girls are going to want to be with you. That's what it's about. It's not always about you're bad with women, you're bad with this or this girl or hot girls. How do I get this type of girl? It's, hey man, how's your social skills? Let's work on that. And overall, you're going to be a lot happier, more fun, more outgoing person when you're able to interact and just really understand social dynamics so well that you're having a good time wherever you are, and you become that social leader, the social dominant alpha male in the pack. All right, guys, we've entered my favorite part of the show. Let's do this.
Welcome to the Knowledge Round, where the guest will be asked rapid-fire questions to give the audience invaluable pieces of wisdom to help transform their lives. Starting in 3, 2, 1. Showtime!
Carlos, how would you explain building attraction with a woman to a newcomer?
Best way I would explain it is being able to relax in your own skin and being quote unquote yourself, but a better version of yourself, because that advice about being yourself and it'll just work out is a lot of crap. It's nonsense. You have to be a better version of yourself. Most guys are not really relaxing into a better version of themselves. They're just they're falling back on old habits that are not really them at all. So let go of your old identity and be willing to relax into one that's more successful.
What's holding most guys back from being successful with women?
It's that inner dialogue, the things that we're telling ourselves, the speeches that are going on, I think, inside our heads, combined with giving into the fear that guys hold on to. There's two kinds of fear. This is really kind of neurotic in a way, but when I found out about the psychology, it was a big awakening. You can be afraid of something, and if you still do that thing or face that fear, then you can still be afraid. And that's actually what's happening, by the way, with most guys, is most guys are afraid to go up and talk to women, but when they still do it, it doesn't matter anymore because they've actually done that thing. So they can feel afraid, but they've still done the thing. So they're okay. They've overcome it. That's the way fear is overcome. What's really dangerous is when you start to fear the feeling of fear. That stops you from even trying. That actually has much more damaging effect. And that's one of the things that can be really detrimental to learning how to be attractive to women and attract women, is when you start to feel that fear of wanting to go talk to her, you're actually now afraid of that fear. So you'll avoid situations that might give you that fear. Like, I don't want to go out to bars because I'm going to see a woman I want to talk to, and then I'm going to feel that fear. So I won't even go to those bars. That's lethal to your social life and to your love life.
So important. And moving on, what's the best advice that you've ever received from a mentor?
Well, one of the ones, there's so much of it. One of the ones I think it sticks out is that an hour of real practice doing something is better than days or even weeks of just reading about it. You know, you can intellectualize something only so far, but you have to be willing to take action. Action is, again, I think one of the key characteristics of men, especially the alpha man, is just taking action. It doesn't matter what emotions you're feeling as you're doing it, whether it's being afraid or nervous or whatever. It's the fact that you actually did it. And action is what guys are known for. We are doers. We're not humans being, we are humans doing. So that's part of what she's looking for, by the way, and why it's so important when guys do the initiation, or rather the act of walking up and approaching her. That shows that you're a doer, and that's absolutely something she has to recognize right off the start.
Taking action is the cornerstone of the man. It's something that you have to do, and accepting that the only way to become successful in anything is for you to take action.
Yep.
And regardless of whatever emotion you're feeling, like you mentioned, Carlos, guys, you have to take action. You could be scared, take action. You could be depressed in bed, take action. Get out, go to the gym, work out, do something, but always be moving, physically taking action with your body, and just never stop. It's the one way that can guarantee that you will get a result is to take action. And the more you take action, the more you learn. And therefore, the result will most likely be a positive result. And moving on to the next question, Carlos, what are your 3 most influential books and why?
I used to read a ton of fiction, and I got a lot of that too. Of course, I'm sure guys are looking for all the good self-helpy ones. I used to read a ton. I still read a ton of Stephen King. I'm reading his latest right now. I think Stephen King's It is one of my all-time favorite books just because it's such a brilliant book. But there's something that you can even learn from the Stephen King books, and that is just how he constructs a story, which is, again, what you're doing with a woman. So even just within reading fiction, you're going to learn things about that, not directly, indirectly, but it'll help. A couple other books I think are really important. These are, this one I consider to be essential, is You Can Be Happy No Matter What. It's a book by Richard Carlson. He unfortunately passed away a few years back. He's the guy that wrote all those small stuff, Don't Sweat the Small Stuff books. Yeah, I mean, those books are kind of like, you roll your eyes when you see them. But this book is hands down one of the best simple explanations. He's got a couple of them too. He's got, I think, one's called Shortcut Through Therapy. They're just brilliant because they totally do away with all the nonsense and the complication we put around our psychology and stuff like that. And I just can't recommend it to guys enough. It got me through some pretty dark times in my life. So that's You Can Be Happy No Matter What. And then really all of Robert Greene's books. Robert Greene is the one who wrote The Art of Seduction, The 48 Laws of Power, The Rules of War, and then most recently is Mastery. Mastery is an excellent book for guys to read.
I am personally a big fan of Robert Greene, and I've recently had him on the show. He is an amazing, brilliant guy. And just a heads up, guys, you can pick up those books for free at kfmbook.com. That's kfmbook.com. I know you guys love audio, and so I partnered with Audible, an Amazon company that creates and sells ebooks. So go ahead and go to kfmbook.com, get your free trial, and boom, free books galore. It's a great way to learn at the gym, in the car, on the go. And moving on, what's one action one person can take right now that would get them closer towards their dreams?
Well, if we're talking about the dreams of being more attracted to women, and I think every guy shares that one, or at least most guys do, is get out and start be talking to people. Do what I call the warm-up. I call this the warm-up routine. Just go out to stores and talk to the clerks in the stores because they're actually paid to be nice to you. They have to talk to you. They got no choice. So do that. I mean, talk to the women that work at those clothing stores in the mall. Any place you go, talk to the bartenders, especially female bartenders. Don't be the weird, creepy dude that hits on them, though. You know, be the guy that's just a ton of fun to be around and hang out with. Don't pretend in any way that you want or need anything sexually from them. Just totally use them to tease and treat them like your bratty little sister, and then use that as your warm up because that actually does a lot to make you literally feel warmer when you get around women that you really do want to talk to and hang out with.
I like that. Take action, little progressive steps, start that journey and keep going. I like it. I have a scenario for you, Carlos. Imagine you woke up and you were 20 again. You know everything you know now and you wanted to start your dating life. How would you do it differently? What would you do?
Wow, I'm 20 again. Well, today, which I didn't have then, would be all the resources you can get to on the internet, which are really fantastic. But that's also the huge, huge detriment because now, unfortunately, most of the information on the internet is just as watered down and unfortunately not as usable and practical and workable to do this thing we're talking about. I mean, it would just be the same situation all over again, only instead of going to a library, I'd be going to the internet and getting just as confused. It's just a sad fact of things is that's what happens. I mean, I look at some of the answers I see on some of these sites, and I won't name them, very famous answer sites or the places you go to ask questions. The answers that are given are just completely worthless. And as a guy, you got to know in your heart when you see the truth and when you read it. So, yeah, I mean, if I woke up again and I was 20, I'd say I'd probably be still on that same path, but it would always have that undercurrent of I would be really looking for the truth. That was one thing I think my dad taught me the most is you just can't deal in BS. You've got to really have an eye and be able to smell what is real and what is stuff that people, whether it's cheap flattery or it's lies or it's the things we do to avoid showing our true selves and not be vulnerable. You got to be able to know what the truth is in life. And that's what I think I'd be doing.
Carlos, where do you see the direction of the seduction or dating or pickup community going at this point in time?
I don't really, I know there's this thing called the quote unquote pickup community, and owe a lot to it because that was where guys discovered that there are things you can do to actually create attraction with women instead of letting it be something totally random and feeling like a loser for most of your life. You can go and learn this stuff. And for that, I'm immensely grateful. But as a whole, keeping it some sort of arcane little art to just game and manipulate emotions is not where it is. So in terms of evolution, I've already seen this happen with so many guys over the last, I've been around doing this for so long now. The guys that get it have typically gone through this path. I call it the pickup pipeline, although it could be anything. It's just this path of starting out with, oh, cool, something cool I can say to a woman that gets me into a conversation with her. Oh, cool, something I can do to be able to tell stories. Then it becomes all about the gimmicks that they're using. And then they realize, oh, wait a minute, it wasn't those things. It was the overall cool dude that that can just naturally relax into a conversation that's creating the attraction. And it was really my psychology the whole time that was stopping me from doing these things that are actually pretty natural for guys to do. So they go through basically at the start, they learn techniques. At the end, they've learned that it was all about just being a better man in general, because that's what women are looking for. If you are a good quality guy, there are women out there just waiting. If you're looking at this like being like an expressway of life, there are women hitchhiking all on this expressway and will jump in with the guys that are the quality guys. I want to say quality car because that makes it think she's only picking you for your car. It's all about being the guy that she knows is ambitious. He's going on his own path. He doesn't need her. He's going to just keep going. There's a great story, and this is just a short thing from a book that's called The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. I can never pronounce his name right. I don't know if you've read it. Yeah, it's an awesome book. I encourage guys to read it. It's kind of an allegory or fable. But there's a great point in the book where the woman looks at him and goes, you know what? You need to leave. And I don't want to marry you. I don't want to be your girlfriend or whatever, only because you obviously have something else you need to be doing in your life and you're not doing it. And I thought, wow, that's powerful, because that's what women can see in guys, that if they're trying to fill this hole with some other woman, they're missing the point. They've got to have their game on for the rest of their life too.
You're singing music to my ears, Carlos. That is so powerful. And, I've always been saying that guys need to stay on their path and purpose in life. It is what makes you attractive. It's what makes you your man. And that's what women want to be with. They want to be with a man who's found his thing and he's made that thing his primary mission. And girls want to latch onto that. They want to be enjoying your adventure.
Yeah.
They don't want you to make her your main adventure, getting the girl.
Yeah, and it's easy to do because what it is we can't see past our most pressing and urgent pain. Whatever our pain is that's in front of us right now, it overrides everything else, and you want to take care of that pain, and that's totally understandable. But once you get past the initial part, you got to get back to balance.
I like that so much. And Carlos, as we're winding down here, can you give the audience some parting piece of guidance?
Well, I could say that you got to trust in yourself. You got to trust your own perceptions, but it's easy to be doubtful of them when they haven't been giving you the results you've been searching for. So choose a good mentor, choose somebody that can help you. And by all means, whatever it is you want to do, there is a way to get better at it and a way to do it. You just have to commit yourself to doing that. And the best way to do it is to get a plan for that or get some sort of roadmap or blueprint, which is, again, what I show guys how to do, is to give you a specific step-by-step blueprint to go from A to B to C to wherever you want to go. And whether it's with women or with your life, it's a very similar path.
Carlos, thank you so much for sharing.
You bet.
And Carlos, what's your vision for the future? What's exciting you today?
Well, interestingly, in the last year or two, I've been working on programs for women, helping them understand men, because ultimately, it's not just about teaching guys, and I mean it is about helping them, but at the same time, I realize that there is so much about guys that women completely miss, and this is something that guys are always freaked out by, because they think that by nature women simply have this. They are naturally more skilled at the whole dating game than men are, and they are, and mostly they aren't too. Guys and women we're pretty much on the same playing field, just different places on the field. So I'm really excited about helping women with that because there's a lot I think I'm bringing to their awareness and knowledge. And then it feeds right back into helping guys because I get some bit of perception about women that I didn't have before. And I pass that right back over to the guys. So it's kind of like being a double agent in the best sense. I'm passing all the good, interesting stuff from one side to the other that helps them actually figure this out and get it together.
I'm actually a little curious. What are some of the things you're learning about women that they had no idea about guys?
Oh, women have no idea just how important respect is to men. The women don't have a perception of, like, when they say they feel unloved, it's a very distinct emotional state that's separate and on its own. For a guy feels unloved when he doesn't feel like he's respected. Like, we don't, the sensation of being loved is it's communicated through being respected to men on so many levels. We have to feel like we are, and that's where I see so many relationships. Because again, women are more focused on the connection between her and the man. She knows she doesn't have to go up and do the approaching. She doesn't do typically most of the things that initiate a relationship. That's usually the guy's territory. He does the chasing, gets things going at the start. She's kind of the steward of the relationship. So for her, that's like a huge breakthrough to understand how guys work in that respect level.
That's very interesting stuff you got going on there. Carlos, go ahead and give yourself a plug so the audience can get a hold of you and reach you in the future.
Yeah, definitely. For guys, I encourage you to go over to attractwomen.com. Easy to remember. You can also use my name.com, carlszuma.com, but I use attractwomen.com. Just get on my newsletter, get all the great, cool, free stuff I got to offer, and take a look at that and start learning, start the process right there. And if there's any women that have been plugged into this, which I don't think so, but hey, you never know. They can find out my stuff through a variety of methods. But the guys need to focus on going and getting the first step, which is just getting on a plan to get better with women.
Thank you so much, Carlos, for being a part of the Knowledge for Men podcast show. You've given the audience and all the listeners such invaluable wisdom that they're going to put into use today. For that, Carlos, I thank you.
Cool. No problem, man. It's great to be here.
And guys, be sure to check out knowledgeformen.com. That's knowledge, F-O-R, men.com. And you can check out our free tools, Knowledge for Men Toolkit, where you can get a dating ebook, Primal Attraction, Breakthrough, the 25 Points to Financial Freedom, How to Find Your Passion ebook, and Optimal Performance, a health guide for men, all for free at knowledgeformen.com/free tools. That's $149 value, yours free. And guys, check it out, knowledgeformen.com. Thank you guys for listening. That's going to wrap up episode 11. Have a great day. Crush life.
Thank you for listening to the Knowledge for Men podcast show. Now, go crush the day, live better, take action, and get the life you've always dreamed of.